Yeah, thank you. I will talk about ghost hunters in Germany, and that might be a little bit different from ghost hunters in the US. I'm not sure. And my co author, Sonja Nowara, she's an active ghost hunter. She is not an academic scientist, but she's interested in academic science. So, and what are ghost hunters? Is ghost hunting? It's a leisure activity. It is conducted usually by small groups of people who visit places that are supposedly haunted, such as cemeteries, hospitals, old hotels or ruins. And they have reality TV series such as Ghost Hunters or Most Haunted as role models. So, and sometimes these groups also investigate poltergeist cases in private households, but that are not doing all of these groups. And the main objective of these groups is to detect and record alleged paranormal phenomena. What are the underlying hypotheses of this activity? First is ghosts leave physically measurable traces. Ghosts can influence electric or electronic devices, and one can elicit reaction from the ghosts or spirits by asking questions. And they are usually very fascinated by technology, and you can see here on the pictures some of these devices they are used, and they are sometimes specifically developed for ghost hunting, such as ghost detectors, or so they indicate when the light flashes, then there's a ghost close by or so. And the evidence they get that results from correspondences, partly from if two devices make a measurement and it's accompanied, for example, by goosebumps, by personal perceptions, and these all together that creates evidence for them. So the aim of our study was to get a better understanding of ghost hunting in Germany, what kind of people pursue this time consuming and costly leisure activity, and specifically, what are their individual motives, what kind of extraordinary experiences did they made, and what kind of worldview or paranormal beliefs do they have. So we administered two online questionnaires that were sent to 35 German ghost hunting groups where we have the postal address, but we also put it on websites so that we perhaps reached all 58 currently active groups. And the first questionnaire was directed or was addressed to the entire team, and that is not a subject of this presentation. And the second one was addressed to individual members of the groups. This individual questionnaire included questions to sociodemographic data, and question about becoming a ghost hunter, about paranormal experiences, and what is specifically fascinating on ghost hunting. Then we also applied a questionnaire on phenomenology of exceptional experiences, the PExE by my colleague Wolfgang Fach, and the belief in the supernatural scale by Scofield et al. So to the results, sociodemographics, we got 39 available data sets. That is an estimated response rate of approximately 35%, mean age 45 years, gender almost balanced with a little more females. School living qualification is almost normal population with a little less higher education entrance qualification, but roughly the normal population. 72% lived in a permanent partnership. 90% were employed at the time of the survey, and these two last mentioned data, they were above the normal population. And the religiosity, we have 36% Christians, That is also normal, more or less, but we have 21% atheists and 9% agnostics among the ghost hunters. So in this scale, we had a multiple choice possibility because some are Christians but have also other orientations. And so the interesting thing here is ghost hunting in Germany and atheism. So the item was, I don't believe in anything divine. They don't seem to be mutually exclusive. So that's from a science of religion point of view is quite interesting. So the concerning extraordinary experiences, 64% of the participants had paranormal or supernatural experiences, and 26% assume that they had this kind of experiences before they became ghost hunters. And 61% of the participants stated that these previous extraordinary experiences had played a central role in starting with ghost hunting. And now to this questionnaire by Wolfgang, the ghost hunting sample has higher mean values in all subscales of this questionnaire than the IGPP client sample, except for one dimension, the coincidence subscale. I cannot go in details due to time constraints, but you will learn more about this scale tomorrow. So regarding belief in the supernatural, we can see here in this row that all subscales and the total scale is higher than the test sample of this questionnaire, except religious beliefs. That might also be something that is specific for Germany. I'm not sure, but it's a speculation. And the question, what is specifically fascinating on ghost hunting? It's not a surprise that possible contact with the paranormal or supernatural is for all of them, basically all of them, specifically fascinating. But also the evaluation of the data, so the documentation, data analysis, and the discussion of what they experienced is important for them. And the history of location where the paranormal investigation are carried out is of great interest or fascination. And if you look at the bottom of this table, we see that the media impact or the level of awareness that can be achieved by publishing documentaries or film presentations on the internet, that does not play a large role in this German sample. We asked about the basic explanation or theory they had about psi phenomena, and 85% of the participants see them as signs of the deceased, spirits or other entities, whereby 41% are totally agreeing with this explanation and 44% partially. And 54% of the participants see them connected with the members of the team. But here we have only 8% total agreement and 46% with a partial agreement. And 90% of the participants see them connected with a history of the location. Here again, we have only 10% with total agreement, and 80% say, yeah, might be, I likely partly dependent on the location. And then there was a question about the own skepticism. And so the item was, please use the slider on a scale from 0, not at all skeptical, to 100, extremely skeptical, to indicate how skeptical you feel about perception or claims of paranormal or supernatural phenomena. And we see the mean is above 50, it's 67. And so more on the skeptical pole, and that can be seen as an expression of the self-image of a scientific approach, because the image is scientists are skeptics regarding their own perceptions, and they want to do some sort of science, and so they have to check what they experience. Are these genuine phenomena or not? And now to an overview, this study was exploratory. We not hypothesis testing. We did not have comparable data from other studies. The sociodemographic data roughly corresponds to the average population in Germany, with the exception we have a higher degree of marriage and life partnership and a higher degree of gainful employment. And the latter is perhaps responsible because it's very costly to do these kind of weekend activities, traveling around with a car and spending nights in hotels and so forth. And then also important is that former extraordinary experiences, paranormal experiences, are important for most of them, that they become ghost hunters. So it's not the other way around, first ghost hunting and then making these experiences, but primary these kind of experiences, and then they are interested to get more. And there is a strong belief in the connection between measured and perceived anomalies and the deceased or ghosts. However, 30% describe themselves as atheists or agnostics. And that's really interesting. That speaks for a high acceptance of the survival hypothesis, which is apparently not tied to believing God or the divine. That was kind of surprising to me. So, and with this, I'm at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Gerhard. Thank you, Gerhard. Questions? No questions?
I don't actually have a question, but I just have a finding which coincides with this. I've collected thousands of narratives that people have created. You know, you ask them if they've had an unusual experience, and then they tell a story. And there's a kind of subset of these narratives that involve group experiences. In other words, more than one person have the experience. And apparitions are the most common form of a collective experience. But then, in a desire to obtain an experience, there's like 3 or 4 different ways of doing it. Playing with an Ouija board, doing table tipping, and then going out in a group to a haunted house. And it seems that if you really want to have a good experience, you need to be a teenager. You need to maybe bring in some alcohol, and you have males and females all go out to the haunted house, and you got a good chance for having one of these experiences. And so maybe the recreational element is a factor.
Yeah, I think I have the idea that experience or the longing for authentic experiences is very important for them. So they see a lot of these kind of phenomena on the TV, or even in fictional stories. But to be on a cemetery or to be in a assumed haunted house and look at the measurement device and see there's a peak, and then so this is a feeling, so authentic feeling to be in connection with perhaps with the supernatural or with the other realm. So I think that plays an important role for them.
I forgot to mention, but a lot of them are really good stories, though.
Yeah.
Well worth retelling.
Yeah, it's a fascinating. So they want to connect with the supernatural. The question is, why do they want to? You can ask further questions. Why? Why do they want to connect with the supernatural? I mean, sometimes if you want to connect with deceased relative, that's easier to understand. But for this case, it's not relative. It's a ghost of not knowing. So why do they? What's the motivation to actually to be?
I mean, yeah, I had this table with all the items. What is fascinating about them? One part is to do some kind of lay science, but they could do it in at other ways. For example, in astronomy, we have a lot of lay scientists who are doing a good work. But here's something else. So here is actually they are I mean, we are living in Germany in a very secular society, at least on an official level. So science have a certain opinion about reality, and these persons think this is not enough, and they want actually to get in touch with the other side, and the churches don't provide something that they like anymore or that is sufficient anymore for them. But going into these fields and make and the important thing is that they can measure it. They need these technical devices to have an objective, so there's an objective sign that there's something, and they discuss it. Was it genuine or could it be accidental? And after a long discussion, maybe it takes 2 or 3 weeks to have all this. You have to imagine they made recordings the whole night. They had hours of video and audio recordings. They have to go through all these recordings. Look, is there something? Maybe we missed something in the situation directly, but it is on the recordings. So this is a time-consuming activity, but it seems to be extremely fascinating for them.
I actually have like about 2 or 3 questions because, sorry if I can, I don't want to abuse my privileges. But I also have a lot of experience being involved with ghost hunters as well, alongside of the more parapsychological route. And I'm wondering if there were any questions in your survey about their perceptions of, say, parapsychology or, the more sort of higher education route of studying paranormal or psychical research. And that's my first question.
Again, is there something in the questionnaire that
That asked about their perception of, say, parapsychology or more, scientific, like structured, I should say. Yeah.
So I could not do everything of the questionnaire in these presentations, and to be honest, it's only a third is evaluated so far. But there is, I mean, I also asked if they would be willing to go deeper in interviews and so, and it's mixed. So the scene is not homogeneous anymore. There was a development over the last years, and some of them became very commercial. So they sell their recordings on Amazon Prime, and it's like a series. Every 2 months they bring a new adventure. And these guys, it seems that they also create the fake phenomena to make it very interesting. So we have to distinguish several or for different groups of ghost hunters in the meantime. But some of them are very skeptic of scientists, also of parapsychology, specifically of the German kind, who rather reject spiritist interpretation of psi phenomena. And most of them, they tend to interpret the phenomena in a spiritist way. So, but others are willing to cooperate. And my colleague here, Sonja Nowara, she is not an academic scientist, but she is very interested in academic science. And she is, in a way, she got a lot of opposition in the scene, but she is well known in the whole scene, so to say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it says something that you as an academic scientist are open and did research, on paranormal researchers. But I also wanted to say, too, that I always find it interesting that they do all this at night because statistically, most paranormal phenomena actually happens during the day. So, right. And it's, so that's just my sort of commentary.
That are partly pragmatical reasons, because when they are in a castle or so, during the day there are tourists, and so they have to go, or also the influences, noises from everywhere, traffic and so are much higher than during the night. So.
Hi. So it's not a question, just a comment on perhaps speculating why these ghost hunters may be engaging in this interest, and I wonder if it may be something about their personality. There's certain dimensions of personality, like openness to experience, that are associated with this desire to expose yourself to different experiences, to try new things, and also sometimes unconventional interests. So I wonder if those people are perhaps high in that trait.
Yeah, one can assume it, but we didn't have that in our survey. So
I was thinking, did you, like when you were showing the results about being agnostic or atheist, like that they declare themselves, which was higher than maybe you expected? I was thinking it actually, at least in my mind, and I was going to ask you, do you think it has any relationship with like cultural? So, for example, in those countries like Germany, and I see this ghost hunting a lot in American culture as well, but I don't see that, for example, in Brazil. And I would expect the same in, I don't know, Mexico. I'm curious about, maybe because these countries are more linked to spiritual and practices. At least in Brazil, you can, like, spiritist centers everywhere, and you can see possessions. And if you want to see us like a ghost or something, we are in more close contact with the invisible world, I would say that. And maybe these kinds of cultures like Germany and America, that they are further away from spiritist practice, they are eager for that.
yeah.
And they declare themselves agnostic, specifically because they don't grow up in this context. I don't know, have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, that is very plausible, but the American situation differs from the German because in America we have much more people who consider themselves religious, some form of Christianity. It's much higher than in Germany. So in Germany, yeah, there are a lot of agnostics or people who call themselves atheists, but that does not decrease their interest in the supernatural and even in spirits. So it's like a paradox, you know. They believe in survival of the soul, but they don't believe in God. So that's quite interesting. So
Maybe it's more difficult to see this type of phenomena. They have to seek and go.
perhaps, yeah.
So, Gerhard, you said that they tended to have previous exceptional experiences, and you also said they scored higher on the PEC scale, or PEC-E scale, on Wolfgang's scale. Yes, I'm wondering, do you know what specific type of exceptional experiences that they tended to have? I'm just thinking in terms of if they had a lot of PK experience or even poltergeist experience, maybe their readings are unconscious PK, which draws them more to this type of thing.
That is possible. But I mean, the problem here is that the PExE in this case did not differ between the extraordinary experiences that were made before they started and that they're made during their ghost hunting. And I mean, you have to consider they go into the field to have these experiments. So it's not a surprise that they are higher than everywhere, than normal population, so to say. The only thing that is interesting that coincidence part is lower. Normally, that is the highest in all the samples, and the others are lower. And here is coincidence lower than the others. And what does it mean, coincidence? We will learn about this more tomorrow. But coincidence means to create some connections between events, like synchronistic events or something like that. And this is something they are very critical about. They want to be scientists. And so for me, it makes quite a bit sense that they have more experiences than the normal population or even than the clinical population, because they go to seek these experiences every 4 weeks or so. And so, yeah.
And even as researchers, sometimes we make our own experiences as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I would expect that parapsychologists perhaps also have higher values on this scale. So It was not administered so far among the parapsychologists, but yeah.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much, Gerhard.
Yeah.